Probably the whole thing really started for me was I had my thyroid removed. And this was in the early part of 2000s, 2003, 4, something like that. And after that time period, I was living pretty much a stressful life. I can see that now. And I had a husband who, he has since passed away, but he was an alcoholic. And in 2000, it was stressful. And I also was a teacher and had a lot of stress at my teaching job as well. And in 2005, he decided that he was going to leave me. Now I see there was a lot of stress involved with that as I look back at that time. And soon after that, I was diagnosed with a cancer in my bladder. And I went in and it was a tumor, and they took the tumor out, and I never had any chemo or anything like that. And I went on, I said I didn't want anything else. And the next time period was 2010, and it was December of 2010. I was coughing a lot during the fall, and I always had sinus issues. And I went in and I was discovered right around Christmas of 2010 that I had lung cancer. And I was told that I needed to go in, and they would have me go in and see a surgeon. So I went in to see a surgeon, and they decided to remove my upper right lobe of my lung. And I had that done in January of 2011. And the surgery went very well. The doctor was very positive about it. He thought that everything went well. And I decided not to do any chemo, not to do any radiation. And with my eldest stepdaughter, we very much got into looking into veganism and eating a vegetarian lifestyle. And I'm not sure exactly when it started that we started watching Truth About Cancer, but it was snippets. It was Global Quest, and so it was listening to people, listening to different doctors that he talked to, and we started watching those. And at that point, I was introduced to Bill Henderson. And I also listened a lot to Chris Wark. And I was also following Chris Carr. And I was listening to her and all of the different things that she cooked and made. First thing I did was I contacted Bill Henderson, and he was my mentor. And I know since he's passed, and I miss him, but he was very firm, anybody who knew him. And he came right down to me and telling me that the first thing I needed to do was take care of my teeth. And I was loaded with silver amalgams, and I had a few crowns. And so I needed to find a dentist, so I did. I lived in Maine. I lived on an island in Maine, so I was also very isolated. So I found a dentist, and I went up to see her, and it took me 2 summers, but she was a naturopathic dentist, and I loved her to death, and he recommended her. The first summer, she took care of the 4 quadrants of my mouth, and then the next summer, she took care of the 4 crowns that I had, so my mouth was taken care of. Then I went back in because I would have regular checkups with the oncologist. They did not like the idea that I was taking supplements, but I told them that's what I was going to do. I was afraid the first time that I said that because, quite honestly, I was afraid that he was going to say, well, then get the heck out. And I didn't know what I would do if he said that to me. So I said, I can't be afraid. I just have to tell him what I'm going to do. So I went in, and he said, well, will you still come and see me? And I said, well, of course I'll still come and see you. I want to come and see you because I appreciate your opinion, but I want you to know that I'm going to get other opinions too. And then I'll make my best decision. We went along, and everything was fine. I wasn't doing anything, chemo or radiation. And it was probably 2014. I was coughing, and I coughed up some blood. And so I said, not a good thing. So I went in to see him, and I told him, and they decided that the cancer was coming back again in the lung, appeared to be. And they were concerned that it was going to be going over into the other side because it was right at the point where your 2 lungs split right here. It was right there. And so he said, but, you know, for the heck of it, the other thing I'd like to do before we continue that is I'd like to do an MRI on your brain. So he did an MRI, and I had a tumor right here in my brain. I said, you know, and I looked at it. I didn't like what it looked like. And he pushed me right into wanting to do something, and I said, no. I said, it took a while to get here, and I'm going to take my time, and I'm going to think about this. And so I did a lot of talking with people, and I read a lot, And I got a lot of literature, and I read a lot of literature. The one thing that I wanted to do was I wanted to find somebody in the area that I could see that could give me vitamin C IV, that could give me hyperbaric chamber, that could give me a sauna, that could give me something else that I knew I needed. And I was at school, and one of the other teachers said a friend of hers was going to somebody in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. I said, "You're kidding me." And she said, "No." I said, "I've got to know who this doctor is." So his name is Dr. Beer, and he's in Portsmouth, and he's a naturopath. And I went down to see him, and I talked to the school, and I was able to leave early from Scarborough and drive down and see him every Friday afternoon. He would give me vitamin C, and I would go into his little sauna, and I had the hyperbaric chamber, and I did those things. He also put me on the ketogenic diet. I didn't like it, but I did it, and I was by myself, so oftentimes, unfortunately, I didn't eat because I wasn't hungry. I felt really good. I lost a lot of weight, and it got to be winter time, and it was a terrible winter. It was the winter of 2015, 14 into 15, and I got pneumonia, and I knew I had pneumonia, and I was very weak. I knew what I needed was I needed help. My husband was gone. My husband actually passed away in 2013. I was hoping my sister, Linda, would come up and visit me because she lived in Florida. She hated coming because it was so cold. But she came up. I didn't know she was coming, so it was a great surprise, and I had an appointment to go in to see the doctor. So I went in, and yes, I had pneumonia. So she helped me. It was a week of school vacation. She helped me recover, and she said, "You've got to get out of here. You can't be here in the winter anymore." What am I going to do? I'm a teacher. I'm 63 now, but I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to retire, and would they let me? And I wanted to get to 62. So I went in, and I started talking to them about what I possibly could do. And they arranged to let me leave school, which I did, and then I retired in February of 2016. But I was able to come down here in 2015, and I purchased a home in Spring Hill, which is an hour north of Tampa. In February, I made an appointment to go in and see the people at Moffitt. Moffitt Center is a cancer center here, and it's in Tampa. So I made an appointment to go down and see them with a thoracic doctor. I saw her. She wanted me to have a CT scan. And in the meantime, I did try to have an MRI in my lungs, which is virtually impossible because your lungs move all the time, and so you really can't have it. But they did it because I kind of get insistent when I want certain things. So they did it, and then they said, "No, you really have to have the scan." So I said, "All right." And so she wanted me to have a scan. And so she did, and she knew about my brain. So she said, "I want you to have an MRI in your brain too." So I did, and I figured it was just an introduction. And they called me up, very frantic. "Oh my God, Joanne, oh my God, you've got to go to the hospital immediately." I said, "I don't think so. And it's 5 o'clock, and I'm not going to do that." "You have to, you don't know what's going on." Well, anyways, a neurosurgeon called me, and he said, "I need to see you right away." And I went in to see him. I said, "Okay, fine." So I went in to see him 2 days later. He showed me a picture of my head, and my midline of my brain was all twisted. There was a lot of edema, and it didn't look good. And he said it was like bleeding in the front, bleeding on the side, and we needed to get the tumor out. So I said, "Okay, I guess that's what I need to do." So looking at it is what told me. And I made the appointment to go in and have the brain surgery. And this was February of last year, so about a year and a half ago. And I was only in overnight. It was pretty amazing. And then I came home. I did a little radiation after that. I didn't like it, but I did it. In the meantime, then, last November, so that was happening, I was doing well. Kind of went off my diet, and I'm still trying to get back on it. I know it's the right thing for me to do. We were coming back from California. Linda and I last November went to see my aunt. I had a seizure when I got there. So I came back and I started looking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I found Dr. Minkoff at LifeWorks. There's a LifeWorks Wellness Center, which is in Clearwater. He brought me in there, and I first had a PICC line because he had to do a lot of, there he has an IV room, and he gave me vitamin C, I had silver, I would go 5 days a week, I had, it's called poly-MVA, and then I had ozone. They had took blood out and they put ozone, they put that back in my body. I did a sauna that had ozone with a sauna. And I did all that starting in last December. I think I started actually in January. And I was going 5 days a week, then I did 4 days a week. And now, because of going back and having my tests at Moffitt, it's gotten well there. And I told them what I was doing, and she gave me a chemo to take called Tarceva. She said she didn't want me to take any supplements. So I stopped my supplements, and I started taking this Tarceva. And I didn't like the way I felt, didn't like what was going on. And of course, he wanted me to take a bunch of supplements, and I said, well, that's what I'm going to do. So I started taking the supplements, and I stopped the Tarceva. And when I went to see her next, I said, well, here I go again, I got to tell the truth. So I tell the truth. So I just said, look, I stopped the Tarceva, and here's my list of supplements, which is probably about 20, okay, maybe 40. And I also have the cannabis oil, and I take a lot of different things. So I gave that all to her, and she said, well, okay, do you still want to see me? Which I'm always afraid they're going to throw me out, but then they're always concerned that I don't want to see them anymore. So I said, well, yes, I do, and continue to do the tests and everything. Fine. So all that's been going on, and the last time I went to see her, which was in June, she said, Joanne, she said, in your lungs, she said, it's almost as if you don't have cancer. She said, it's not growing. So I don't think I need to see you for maybe 6 months. And I said, okay. So I left, and that was fine. And then I went in to see my neurosurgeon, had the MRI done, and he said, it's just still the one, and it's getting smaller. And he said, well, but I can't do 6 months. No. I have to be careful. This is your brain, so I'll see you in 3 months. So I said, okay. Meanwhile, I'm telling Dr. Minkoff at LifeWorks, he's thrilled. And he says, okay, we'll continue to do this, continue to do it, but we'll do less. So with him, I was also doing IPT. So I was getting about 10%, then up to 20% of the chemo, because he tested everything in Greece, and he knew exactly which ones to use for me. So he said, okay. He said, now I'll do that once a month instead of once a week, and you'll come in and you'll have just vitamin C and UVBI. You'll have those two things once a week and the IPT once a month. So I was doing that. And he said, let's see what happens the next time you see Dr. Tran for your head, and we'll go from there. So I went in and I said, hello, how are you? And she did her usual thing. And she showed me the picture. Here's where you were in June. Here's where it is now. And I went, wow, that looks smaller to me. And she said, yes, it is. And so she said, well, she said, I think you talked about maybe a change. I said, yes. He said he'd go to 6 months. She said, yeah, I think that's what I have here. She said, well, I'll talk to him about it. I'm sure that's what it is. When you go out and make your next appointment, you can make it for 6 months. And I said, thank you very much. And I'll see you in 6 months. So I have yet to see Dr. Minkoff. I see him Monday at 4:30, and then we'll determine what I'm going to be doing at LifeWorks. And here I am today. Faith is absolutely critical in our lives. And it's the starting in your soul of love, and which is so very important to have. So that's number one. And then you go from there and you start to do things to clarify your body and your mind and your soul, and do all the right things and learn as much as you can.